somewhere right now. A soldier is holding a tablet in the mountains of Eastern Europe. The tablet shows him where enemy positions were spotted 3 hours ago, where they moved, what pattern they're following, what they might do next. He didn't build that software. His government didn't build it either. One company built it, a company most people have never heard of, a company that started with one terrifying question. What if a machine could see everything? September 11th, 2001. The most powerful intelligence apparatus in human history had almost everything it needed to stop those attacks. The names were in databases. The faces were in files. The warning signs existed, scattered across 17 different agencies, locked inside 17 different systems that did not talk to each other. Nearly 3,000 people didn't die because America lacked information. They died because no one could see it all at once. Peter Thiel had already made his fortune at PayPal, a company that became powerful by detecting fraud through invisible connections that humans couldn't find alone. He was a libertarian, a contrarian, a man who genuinely believed Western civilization was drifting toward collapse, and that technology was the only thing fast enough to stop it. In 2003, with a small group of engineers and an idea nobody in Silicon Valley fully understood, he co-founded a company. He named it after the stones in Lord of the Rings. Magical orbs, objects that let you see anywhere in the world at any time. Perfectly, completely, with no filter. The stones that in the story were also incredibly dangerous in the wrong hands. He named it Palantir. Most startups beg angel investors for their first $100,000. Palantir's first major investor was the Central Intelligence Agency. The CIA runs a venture capital arm called In-Q-Tel. Its entire job is to fund technologies the government can't build fast enough. Most investments quietly vanish into classified programs. Palantir didn't vanish. The pitch was simple. The NSA, the FBI, the CIA, they each had oceans of data. Names, locations, financial transactions, travel patterns, phone records. But every agency kept their ocean in a separate pool. You couldn't search across all of them at once. You couldn't find a shape hiding in the noise. Palantir could connect the pools. With a single check from In-Q-Tel, Palantir was born, not as a startup, but as something closer to a government weapon with a California zip code. Palantir's founding team was unlike anything Silicon Valley had seen. Peter Thiel, the ideological architect, the man whose worldview became the company's soul. He believed in the West winning, not diplomatically, winning. Alex Karp, the CEO, a man who holds a PhD in neoclassical social theory from Frankfurt, who practices Qigong every morning, who speaks with the blunt certainty of someone who has absolutely nothing to prove, and around them, a culture that treated government paranoia not as a liability, but as a feature. In most of Silicon Valley, working with the military was embarrassing. At Palantir, it was the entire point. The first product Palantir built was called Gotham, and you don't need to know exactly how it works to understand what it does. Imagine you're a military analyst. You have satellite images, phone intercepts in 3 languages, financial transactions from shell companies in 4 countries, and field reports from soldiers on the ground, all arriving simultaneously, all in different formats, all from different systems. Without Palantir, you spend weeks trying to manually connect those threads. With Palantir Gotham, you spend minutes. The software ingests everything: structured data, unstructured data, signals that weren't designed to be analyzed together, and finds the relationships hiding inside. Who met whom, when, where, how often, and what that pattern most likely means. U.S. Special Operations Forces began carrying Palantir-equipped tablets into Afghanistan and Iraq. Officers reported that it changed the pace of decision-making entirely. Intelligence that used to take days to produce came back in hours, then minutes. And then came the claim that Palantir's software helped locate Osama bin Laden. Palantir has never confirmed it directly. They've never denied it either. By 2016, Palantir had a problem. Government contracts were keeping them alive, but barely. The company was burning hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And the pipeline of new military clients was not growing fast enough. So they made a pivot. They built Palantir Foundry. The same logic, the same power applied to the private sector. Airbus used it to find inefficiencies across its global supply chain and save hundreds of millions of dollars. The UK's National Health Service used it to manage hospital capacity and patient flows during the pandemic. Ferrari used it on its Formula One racing program. The pitch to corporations was the same. You're swimming in data. We will make it make sense. What had begun as a surveillance tool for the war on terror was now selling to some of the most respected companies in the world. In 2023, Palantir made its most important bet yet. They launched the Artificial Intelligence Platform, or AIP. Palantir had invented something they called the AI Bootcamp, a 5-day intensive session where potential clients come in skeptical, work directly inside Palantir's AI systems, and almost always leave as paying customers. The conversion rate is almost absurd, but AIP's most significant application wasn't enterprise software. It was the battlefield. Palantir began integrating large language models into military decision-making, systems capable of processing live battlefield data and surfacing recommendations, where to move, where the threat is coming from, what the optimal response looks like. And here is where the questions get uncomfortable. When an AI recommends a military strike, and a human approves it in 30 seconds, who made that decision? Palantir's answer: humans are always in the loop. The machine advises, the human decides. The critics answer: when the machine is fast enough and confident enough, the human is just a formality. Palantir has never fully resolved that tension. They keep building anyway. Here is the number that Wall Street could not forgive for almost 2 decades. 18 consecutive years of losses. Palantir was founded in 2003. It did not report its first full year of GAAP profitability until 2023. 20 years. The company that claimed to be the most powerful data analysis tool on the planet could not turn a profit. What kept it alive was the government. Defense contracts, intelligence contracts, handshake deals made in rooms that didn't officially exist. The US government poured money into Palantir not because it was profitable, but because they believed they needed it. Engineers stayed, not because the compensation was spectacular. They stayed because they were told, and many genuinely believed, that their code was making the world safer. Ideology as a retention strategy. It worked, until it almost didn't. September 30th, 2020. Palantir went public through a direct listing, skipping the traditional IPO process, avoiding the banks they didn't trust, doing it their way. The market cap hit $20 billion on day one. Retail investors flooded in. Reddit forums lit up. Alex Karp gave interviews and called Palantir's software one of the most important technologies in human history, without flinching. Then the stock fell. Then it fell more. By the end of 2022, Palantir had lost nearly 80% of its value from its peak. Investors who bought at the top had lost most of their money. The critics called it a defense contractor cosplaying as a tech company. Some said it was a company built on hype, held together by government welfare, dressed up in Silicon Valley branding. Then everything changed. 2023, first full year of profitability. 2024, S&P 500 inclusion. The moment institutional money had to buy Palantir, whether they believed in it or not. The stock price rose over 300% in a single year. The catalyst was simple. The United States government began pouring unprecedented capital into defense AI. Dozens of contracts, hundreds of millions of dollars. And Palantir, the company that had spent 20 years building exactly this technology, was the only one with infrastructure ready to deploy immediately. They hadn't been early. They had been exactly on time. Let's talk about the part Palantir doesn't put in their investor presentations. The contracts with ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. A system that critics say turned Palantir's pattern recognition technology into a deportation pipeline. Tracking individuals, predicting movement, flagging names. The predictive policing contracts. where Palantir software was used to flag individuals as likely future criminals based on patterns in existing data. In New Orleans, Palantir ran a covert surveillance program for years. City council members didn't know. The public didn't know. They found out from an investigation by The Intercept. The ACLU called it mass surveillance infrastructure. Civil rights organizations filed reports. Palantir's response was consistent. The tool doesn't make decisions. People do. If the decisions are bad, that's not the tool's fault. It's a legally clean answer. Whether it's a morally sufficient one, that's a question Palantir has left entirely to others. When Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, most technology companies hedged. They issued careful statements. They waited to see which way history would move. Palantir moved first. Alex Karp flew to Kyiv. The company deployed Gotham in active war conditions. Ukrainian military forces used Palantir software to track Russian troop movements and coordinate counteroffensives. And then Karp said something that no Silicon Valley CEO had ever really said out loud before. We are not neutral. We want the West to win. Not measured, not diplomatic. A declaration. The tech industry had spent a decade trying to convince governments that technology was a neutral tool, a hammer that doesn't care what nail it hits. Karp destroyed that argument in one sentence. Palantir wasn't a tool. It had a side. Not everyone at Palantir agreed with the direction. In 2018, when the ICE contracts became public, employees pushed back. Letters were written. Meetings were demanded. Some left. Karp's response became legendary. We're not building software for Burning Man. He meant it as a statement of identity. Palantir was not a progressive tech company that would bend based on employee sentiment. But to many of the engineers who left, it felt like confirmation of something they had already suspected. The tension between idealism and the machinery of power is not a tension Palantir ever resolved. It just decided which side it was on. We are living through the first years of a global AI arms race. And unlike nuclear weapons, which required rare materials, massive infrastructure, and were ultimately limited to a small number of superpowers, AI can be developed almost anywhere, by almost anyone, at unprecedented speed. The United States government has concluded that losing this race to China would be the single most consequential national security failure since the Cold War. Palantir has positioned itself at the center of the American answer to that threat. The Maven Smart System, the Army, the Air Force, the Department of Homeland Security, NATO allies. The pipeline of contracts runs into the hundreds of billions of dollars over the next decade. And Palantir, the company that bled money for 18 years on the bet that this moment would come, is finally standing in the right place at the right time, with the right machine. Peter Thiel once said that Palantir's goal was to be the default operating system of the Western world. Not one government, not one military, not one corporation, the West. Think about what that means. If Palantir achieves what it says it wants to achieve, the machine that sees everything will be running on Palantir software. The wars, the borders, the supply chains, the financial systems, all of it visible in real time to one company. One company that has never been fully transparent about how its technology works. One company that answers first to its government clients and second to everyone else. One company named after a magical object from a fantasy novel that the author wrote as a warning. In Tolkien's story, the Palantiri were incredibly useful. They were also how the enemy found you. Palantir doesn't sell you a product. It sells you the ability to see. It sells that ability to the people with the most power, the most money, the most weapons. And it has built a world where the all-seeing machine is not a dystopian fiction. It's a publicly traded company, profitable for the first time in 2023, growing. The only question that Palantir has never answered, the one at the center of everything it does, is this. When the machine can see everything, who watches the machine?